I'm gonna get, there we go. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at the 3 ways that you can utilize Breakout EDU in your classroom. So there are digital games that are already created for you. We're actually going to do one together. There are physical games that use the boxes. Um, we actually have, there's boxes right back here that never leave my office. So they're just back here. We have 6 of these physical boxes, and I'll show you kind of the contents of those. And then you also have the ability to create your own games, which I think is pretty nice. Now, when we think about creating or using these breakout games, they can be as intense or easy as you want them to be. We're about to do a breakout together, and it's going to be just one lock, essentially. That's all it is. So it doesn't have to be this like, I have to spend 45 minutes, we have to lock down the room, and it's got to be whatever. It can be really simple too. So let me get my link for you guys. Okay, so as I mentioned at the beginning, this is called the Lock of the Day. They started publishing these around COVID, like really April 2020 is when they started this. They were like, let's just do a Lock of the Day. They used to do live games on their Facebook page, and then they just moved it over to the platform. So this is something that you would be able to share with students every single day. There's a new lock. They're not grade specific, they're not content specific. It's just various puzzles. Um, Depending on your grade level or your students, you may do this as a whole class. Like, does anybody have any ideas? This may just be a bell ringer that you kind of put up. You could share it with students. Adam, I mean, you could even use some of these with your TOA kids. You're just pull it up during a Zoom, or this is what the first thing that they see when they come into your class is a lock like this. And then again, ask for some feedback from them, like, how would you solve this one? So just for the sake of time, I'm going to tell you how to solve this one. But what I notice and what I would point out to the students or ask to see if they notice is that there's some Roman numerals there. So we see these Roman numerals. Usually when I see something like numbers or letters, that tells me that there's an order. So I need to look at the order of those to then determine the lock. The other thing that I notice is down at the bottom here, this is the type of lock. So we call this one a directional lock. That means it's, north, south, east, west. So up, down, left, right. So if I use my numbers here, and this reminds me of, remember those little puzzles, the like plastic puzzles? There was always like one piece missing and you had to like slide the squares over. That's kind of what this is like. So if I was going to put this puzzle back together, this piece number 1 here is going to have to go to the right to be put in the correct spot. Right? So I'm going to do right first. Then piece number 2 is going to have to go, it looks like to the left. And if I keep going with that, piece number 3 goes to the right. Piece number 4 also goes to the right. 5 is going to go to the left. Where is 6? 6 is going to go to the left. And 7 is going to go to the left. Did I do all that correctly? We'll see. Yep. I submit my answer and then look at that. I broke out. Awesome. So out of curiosity, and you guys can type this in the chat, did anybody get that before I told you what the answer is? It's okay if you didn't. I told you it was for any grade level, and some of you are thinking, well, I didn't get that. I will say this, the more you practice, the better you get at figuring out these locks and their solutions. I went to one of the escape rooms here in town in May, and I thought, oh man, I'm gonna dominate this. I'm not gonna need any clues. I'm gonna like finish super early. That was not the case. But I do feel like having some experience with Breakout helped me think about things in a different way. So that's really like, let's talk about the educational aspect of these games. So what they're allowing our students to do is collaborate, figuring out puzzles, and just look at problems a different way. Some of the games that we're going to look at will be content specific. So it's like they will need to have some kind of background knowledge to actually solve these puzzles. But not every game needs to be like that. I regularly do games with first graders. So they don't have a lot of content knowledge coming in, but we make observations. What do you notice? That's always my question. What do you notice? I've been running the exact same game with Klondike first grade for at least 3 years. Every single class does it, and every single class breaks out. I always make sure of that. But we can do this really with any grade level, any content area, or just for team building. Okay, so let's talk about digital games that are available to you. So you currently do not have access to what I'm showing you, but you will at the end of this. I will share access for this. But I at least want to show you the platform and like what's available to you so you know if it's worth your time to actually look into it. So along here at the top, I have a search bar. This search is great if the person that created the game did a good job of describing it. Then if I'm looking for something on mitosis, then, and it has it in the name, then fantastic. I can also narrow down here by grade level, subject, and type. Now, type is going to be really important for us when we're thinking about, do I want to do a digital breakout or a kit required breakout? So we're going to first look at digital breakouts, but I can also browse by subject. So they do have subjects within here. So you can see like lock of the day. I think with the lock of the day ones, yeah, they have all the locks of the day from previous months too. So you can reuse those because I'm assuming you have not used those with your students yet. So this was something that you can reuse with them. If I go to a lock of the day and maybe it was like today and you said, I don't even know how to begin to solve this. There are solutions and there are answer keys on the teacher's end. Of course, it's not going to load right now. There we go. Okay, so here's a lock of the day for July 2nd. If I go to more details, down here at the bottom, I can actually see the solution. It gives me a little explanation here, a hint. So if I wanted to help my students or give them a little hint, I'm able to do that. I can show the combination and then we can play the game as well. So you don't have to like be a lock master to do any of these things. You are able to look at those answer keys, which is helpful. What I would recommend though is always try it yourself without looking at any hints and without looking at the answer key, because I think that makes you or it makes it easier for you to figure out how to give students clues. Okay, so I have all these subjects here. I'm gonna go with social studies. And we're going to do middle school. And then I'm going to see any of the activities that might be available. Now, I did say that I wanted to first look at digital ones. So let's go to digital first. Oh, of course, it took off all of my stuff. So let's go 6th, 7th, 8th grade. The subject is going to be social studies. Like kept all those things. And the type is, it's not keeping any of my things. Fantastic. All right, so I am able to look at any of these games, figure out which one I want to work, and then let's go to this European vacation one. So once I get into a game, I can see the description here. Some of them are going to be standards aligned. They're probably going to be like Common Core standards just because it's a worldwide game that can be used. And then if I scroll down, I see my game information here. So the lock of the day that we were doing is just going to be one type of lock. Some of these full-fledged games will be multiple locks in here. So I can see I've got multiple locks as well as a reflection at the end. If I want to preview the game, I can just click here, play game, and it's going to launch that game for me. And then I'm going to see like what experience will the students have when they go into this game. If I'm ready to share this game, I can actually embed the game. Like if I wanted to embed it in Canvas or something like that, I'm able to do that. I can copy the URL. Don't worry about this view breakout tag. You have to have the Breakout EDU app to scan. It's essentially like a QR code for Breakout EDU. We're not going to worry about that. So these are my two options here. If I just copy this URL, I can paste it into Canvas, paste it into Google Classroom, or maybe we're going to do this whole group. And so it's just going to be something that I would launch. So I can see all of these options in here to play this game. What's really nice though is let's say I like this, but we need a mini version of this. I don't want to do all, I think there were 4 locks. I don't want to do all 4 locks. I need to pare it down a little bit. I can actually copy this game and then go in and edit everything that has been shared. So that's kind of nice if you're looking at like wanting to make your own custom game, but you don't know even where to start. Maybe you start with one of the games that's already made and you just make some minor adjustments. We'll actually look at editing games when we talk about creating our own.
Can I ask a
So,
question?
yes, yeah, go ahead.
And this might be getting ahead of myself, but if I were to put it in Canvas and all the kids click on it, would they each be doing it by themselves, or could I do it in a way where they would be in like small group? Or
The only way really to do it with small groups is like to actually like physically group the kids together and have them do it on one Chromebook.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
so they're not going to like virtually do it in small groups.
okay.
That makes sense.
So if
Yeah.
one kid is doing it on his Chromebook, it's not going to be doing the answers on someone else's Chromebook.
No, no.
Okay.
What I have found, because I did that with a second grade class, we had the kids partner up, but they both had their Chromebooks, so they both had to still um, put in the answers so that they were both participating, but at least they were working together. Because I think when you're first introducing this, it's better for groups to work together because there's always going to be somebody that says, "Hey, what if we did this?" So yeah, you can group them together, but it's not going, there's going to be no collaboration over the computers.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so those are digital games. Digital games are really easy to use. You don't have to set anything up except for to find the game, copy the URL, and send it to students. You can do as many of those digital games as you want. Feel free, find all of them, share all of them. But if you would like a physical game, so these boxes here, there's a little more that goes into it. And I will say these are definitely more intense because there's a lot of prep work that goes into it. And most of the time, we're going to also have like 45-minute game for the students. So just keep that in mind that these are definitely more intense. But what I will say is, in my experience, the students really like the physical games because gets them up and moving. It feels like it's actually like a real challenge where like on their computer it's more like they're gaming. Where this they're physically moving around and all of that stuff. So you can book these boxes so you can actually check them out from my office. When I send my follow-up email today, I'll send how to book those. I would say for the most part, they're pretty wide open during the school year in terms of booking them. You get them for a whole week. So you come and pick them up, you set the locks, facilitate the game, and then return the boxes to me. I give you all of the instructions and everything, but I do just want to go through what's included in a box. So that large box that you see is, we have 6 of those. Inside the large box is another small box. Sometimes this is the only box that I use for the game because I don't need the gigantic boxes for the whole game. Each game will likely include more than one physical lock. So there's this blue hasp, opens up like this, you put it on the box. and then you hook all of your locks to the hasp. Each box also comes with a key lock. So, in my experience, what I've done with these, sometimes you can hide the keys in your classroom. So, like you tape it to a bottom of a desk or something like that. Other times, what I've done is made the clue something that the students have to write down and hand to me in exchange for the key. So instead of the key being hidden somewhere, they have to solve a puzzle, and then I give them the key to unlock the lock. Um, Other items in here, we have a 3-digit lock. I give you instructions on how to set these, but it's just you just squeeze the top down and then reset that lock. Same thing with this. We have a 4-digit lock here, and then we have two multi-wheel locks. So these could be words, they could be directions, they could be shapes, and they could be colors. So a lot of different options here, but you have two of these. You can't, I mean, I guess you probably could figure out how to do two words. It would be hard to do two words just because of the number of letters you have. So usually it's like a directional lock and a word lock, or a directional lock and a shape lock, something like that. Um, and then a few additional things that we have in here. We have these red lens viewers. There is actually a website that you can use to create the image for the red lenses, or if you're using a pre-made game, those are already created for you. And then we also have, I don't have one with me, but we also have UV light pens with invisible ink. So you can actually write on with invisible ink and then use that UV light. Flashlights too, UV flashlights are available in the boxes. So a lot of stuff comes with each of the boxes. And again, you don't have to think about like, um, how do I utilize all of these in my content area? I teach math. How are they going to have a directional lock or a key lock in the game? And we'll look at that in just a second. Okay, so I'm going to look at, I'm just going to make this up. Ninth grade language arts, and I'm going to do a kit is required on this one. If I'm just like looking, browsing the content, you'll see up here that it says like kit required, or it'll say digital. So I'll know that in there. Breaking Love, Romeo and Juliet. Love it. So I'm going to look at this game. I get the same kind of breakdown of the game here where I have a little description of that game. Where it said play game, it now says launch timer because most of these games are going to be a 45-minute timer. So you can actually start that here and it will count down for students. My suggestion with this is know your audience. For some kids, that's like going to be too anxiety inducing for you to keep that 45 minutes up the whole time. For others, it'll be totally fine. So just depending on your class. With each of the videos, this is the best part. There is a setup video. So it actually tells you how to run the game, which is fantastic because this isn't a game that you created, and it would be very hard for you to play this game before setting everything up, right? You have to set everything up. So the how-to video will walk you through anything that you need to print, how you need to set the locks, any of the answers, any of the clues, all of that stuff. And then right up here at the top, we also have each clue, a description of it, and then what the combination is actually going to be when you're setting up those locks. So I have all of that information here. And then I also have this answer key as a PDF. And this is going to open a full breakdown of everything that I need to know for this game. There should also be a link to, oh, yes. Right up here at the top, there's a link to game resources. This is going to be another PDF of all of the things that I need to print. So if there's anything that I need to print and make available to students, it's going to show in this answer key PDF. Sometimes the clues are going to be you need to print one for every single kid or for every single group. Other times, it'll just be like one for the whole class. So for instance, I do a spy breakout with some fifth graders every year. For that one, we have clues that are given to the groups, like a set of clues that are given to the groups, but then there are also colored arrows that are pasted around the classroom. So those colored arrows stay on the wall. The groups don't take them. They are just up there among the class decorations, and it's something that they need to use as part of the game. All right, so we have our digital games and our kit required games. As I mentioned, digital games, you can do those as often as you want. You don't have to ask my permission to use any of those things. That's just free for you to use the lock of the day and the digital games. The kit required is when you would actually book these kits with me. And if you want help facilitating these things, sometimes with my schedule, I'm able to come out and actually do that stuff. What I would recommend doing is booking me early because my schedule does kind of fill up. If you're a middle school or high school teacher and you see multiple classes throughout the day, I'm happy to run that game more than once throughout the day. So similar to what I do with the first graders, I will run the same game multiple times. If we are going to do that, sometimes what's helpful is if we actually set up the game in a separate room or a separate space, that just makes it easier for me to reset things and the students not be in the classroom. So that's something that you and I can work on together if that's something that you want to do with me. You don't have to use me. Kelly has run breakout games in her classroom before, and they've gone well as far as I know. And I have not helped with those. I've just lent her the kits. So, um, Kelly, would you mind unmuting and just talking about your experience with like checking out the kits and running the game yourself?
Okay, is that working now?
Yes. Yep. I can hear you
Okay,
now.
good. So yeah, I use the Breakout EDU, the Animal Farm one with my freshmen. I did it 2 years in a row, and I love it. The one thing I would say is definitely it, especially if you're doing the kit, it takes a lot of prep. So a lot because it's a lot of things to print off. Um, I would say give yourself probably 2 weeks to get all of the things printed, cut out, organized because there's 6 kits, and then understand how to set the locks because you have to do all of that ahead of time. And then just it was so great. The kids did a great job getting through it in one class period. Everybody broke out. Everybody did. Some I had to give more hints than others, but it was a lot of fun. And the way, because there are only 6 boxes, so each of my classes had about 25 kids per period, and we did it all day long. So some of my classes were back to back. So I would use 3 boxes for one class. They worked in big teams, and then I had 3 boxes for the next class immediately.
Mhm.
And then I could reset while they were working, and then it worked out really well. So I would say if you have classes all day long and you're using these, do not use all 6 boxes at once because you won't have time to reset. You won't have time. There are also sometimes locks break or you don't have enough pieces for like the combos, but you'll figure all that out before you have to
Mhm.
do it. And it's so fun. I just love it. So let me know. I could totally help you guys if you have questions or need help with all of that.
Yeah, Christina, that's a good question. Resetting those with back-to-back classes. Like Kelly
Yes.
said, the having a set going and having a set ready is good. The other thing that I've done is as they unlock a lock, they bring it back to me. And I kind of have like a little space where I'm collecting all those locks. Now you don't have to like reset the combination. You just need to put the box back together
Yeah.
between classes. So I'm kind of collecting all of those things so that as soon as that group is done, I grab their box, I have their clues, and I put everything back together. But it's definitely like an organization piece, right?
Yes.
Yeah, big organization piece. That's why if you're not super comfortable with all of that, that's, you can always ask myself or Lori Vitale. We're happy to come in and just help facilitate that with you. Because we've done it. We've done it multiple times. So, um, another thing I would mention too is, and I don't know if you guys have like lamination machines available in your schools, but I have done that before, especially when I do the first grade breakout. Actually, I have been doing this breakout for so many years that I was like, those first graders are gross and they just boogers all over everything. So, and they will just crumble up your stuff and you're like, I wanted that back. So I finally went and laminated all of my clues and I have it in a bag and I just pull it out each December and I do the same breakout. So if you liked the experience and you're like, hey, I think I'm going to use this every year, like preserve some of those things so then that work the next year is a lot less. Okay, other questions right now? Oh, Christine, I can't hear you.
Okay. Um, so do you usually use this more as like an in-class thing or is for like a review for homework?
In my experience, now I do this a lot in the elementaries, so I will say we're doing it more as a review. They are doing it in class. Um, the physical breakouts, they're doing that as part of their class period, maybe as a review of some content area, but we're doing some of the team building ones. So it doesn't necessarily matter when we're implementing it, right? If you're going to do the digital ones, I think you could do it for homework, like you could give it as a homework assignment. Get that link for them and then send that home. Or it could be even to like introduce a concept. So there's a few clues in there and things for them to solve. Just depends on, I guess, the game itself, how you're going to use that.
Hey, Kelly, can I ask you a question since you used it in the classroom? How
Yeah.
easy was it for kids to, I guess, share the answers to each lock? Did you see that like in between classes or like kids would go to lunch and then all of a sudden the afternoon classes would be able to get through it real quick?
No, they didn't. My students didn't do that.
Okay.
So for between classes, there wasn't enough time for them to really share. And I think that they were, I mean, it was kind of funny in a way. They liked that competition. So
Mhm.
they like to not I never noticed them sharing because there wasn't ever a time where kids immediately broke out, like they knew all the answers. So I think they also, didn't really know who's going to be in their group ahead of time because I told them that day, like who would be in their group. And so they didn't really have time to communicate with each other, like what the answers could be. They just jumped right in and got started. So I don't know, it was kind of neat to see.
Okay. Okay. Well, Adam is literally across the hall from me over at East Tip. And we've
Oh,
got kids that will literally like, what did you do in science as they're going from social studies to science?
Yes.
And so there's a lot of talking with
uh-huh.
our kids in particular, which is why I asked that. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and yeah, these
my
were high school.
recommendation is make it a competition between the groups. So like um tell the groups that like their time, how long it took them to break out has been recorded. And at the end of the day, we're going to see which group did it in the best time. So that means don't share what your group did with the next class because they're going to have a shorter time than what you had. So you don't want to give any hints. Don't ruin the surprise because you want them to maybe struggle a little bit when they're solving the clues.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I spaced them out so there was a lot of space between each group in the
Hmm.
room. And then there was like a little prize. I had stickers and candy and stuff like inside once they broke out. So,
Mhm.
and it took them about 45 minutes. Some of them took the whole time
Yeah.
to get out, but it was fun.
Yeah, so that brings up a good point. One of the things that I experience when I am working, like when I'm facilitating a game for teachers, is as teachers, we really want to help our students. And we don't want them to struggle. And so I set it up beforehand that the students are going to struggle. If they don't struggle in this, then it was too easy and there was no challenge. I want it to be a challenge. And so if they ask for a hint, I might say no. And I tell this to first graders. I might say no to you if you ask for help, but that's because I know that you can do it. So I have to remind the teacher that I'm visiting that they also don't have to help their students with everything because they probably could figure out the puzzle maybe even faster than their student. But that's not the point of this game. The point of this game is for the students to work together to figure out these puzzles. So take a step back and really think like, have they really reached the point where they cannot figure this out? Or are they just barely uncomfortable and they really need to like push themselves a little further? So I will ask questions of a group. I might say things like, well, what do you notice? Hey, did you see XYZ? I'm not going to give them a lot of information because I know that I'm not giving them something that's impossible. It's possible for them to solve these puzzles. So solve the puzzles, right? But that is an uncomfortable feeling for your kids to ask you for help for something and for you to say, no, not right now. Like, I think you can do it by yourself. Um, but that's a great, I mean, that's one of the great things about this company and these boxes is that it makes our kids uncomfortable. They want to take risks to try and figure out like, is that the combination or what if we tried this instead? And we don't want to hinder that by just giving them a clue too early. So that's my recommendation is just like really think about like, do they really need a hint or can they kind of figure this out on their own? All right, last piece that I want to show you. As you're going through and finding games that you like and all that stuff, as I mentioned, you can make copies of games. You can see here I have several different copies of some games, but I can also create my own games. So I would say like this is for the advanced user, like I'm ready to really rock this and I've got a great idea for a game. So all those clues and lock types that we saw in our digital games, we also see this in our own create our own game. So we would add a game story. We would decide, do we want it to be non-sequential or sequential, which means they have to break out like one lock at a time, or it's non-sequential and they can just break out with any locks. And then up at the top here, I can add my own locks. So I decide what type of lock I want. And then I add the clue or setup. So this might be an image, text, video, and then I set that combination. And again, it's shared exactly like a digital breakout would be. If there are any games that I like, and I believe this might have been one that I did. Edit. Someone else created this game. I made a copy of it and I want to delete some things out. When I go to edit it up here at the top, I'm going to see all those locks that were already created for this. And I can delete that lock specifically. So if I want to maybe take a bigger game and just pare it down and make it a smaller one, I'm able to do that. Any of those copies then are going to save. So this could also even be like a multi-day game, which maybe like the game itself has 4 locks and we're going to do 1 lock per day, right? And just kind of continue that activity. So lots of good things in here, lots of things for you to kind of explore. And then of course, I'm always here to help. So I'm going to share the username and password in the chat right now. If you ever lose this, just email me. I'm happy to share it again. Please know that this is a shared account. So that means like anybody in TSC is going to have access to this. So you might see like under my classes, there are classes from other teachers in here. That's because obviously other teachers have used this in the past. So what I do recommend, I think most of the time the teachers are not actually, you don't actually have to create a class in here. So this was just like some teachers kind of exploring things. As I mentioned, if you find a game that you like and it's a digital game, you just copy that URL and share it with your students. So you don't have to save anything on this breakout side. One thing to note though is you don't have any analytics on students actually breaking out. So what I would do is maybe have the students like show you their breakout screen when they're done, or they can take a screenshot of it and submit it in Canvas, something along those lines. But that's really the way for you to know that students actually finished and broke out.